All right. Virginia Allen is a senior news producer at the Daily Signal, host of the Daily Signal podcast and Problematic Women. Joining me now is Virginia Allen. Virginia, nice to have you on the program.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Listen, with everything going on, and there's a lot going on this week, busiest news week I've seen in a long time, the deportation flights are continuing. They were big news for a moment or two, but they've taken a backseat to other things going on in the news. But it is a clear message, strong and clear message. If you're here illegally, you're not going to get to stay. You're out. I mean, that's what's happening, right?
That's exactly what's happening. It's swift action on the part of the Trump administration. I think we all knew that these deportation flights were going to happen, but it is pretty impressive to see how quickly they have begun. So far, ICE has arrested over 5,500 illegal aliens present in the United States. The vast majority of those are criminal illegal aliens. And we have deportation flights leaving the United States pretty much every day, going to Guatemala, to Colombia. We saw that drama unfold last week, to Ecuador, really to countries all over the world. We're sending deportation flights to Africa. And the end goal here, for one, is of course to get the criminals off the streets of the US and to protect the American people. But number two, it's to send a really clear message across the world. Hey, if you come here illegally, you're going to be arrested and you're going to be deported. And that messaging is really important when it comes to stopping that constant flow that we've seen for the past 4 years of illegal aliens crossing our southern border. And I also think it's been really fascinating to see that a lot of these individuals who are being arrested, they've already been given in order to leave the country. They've already been told, hey, your claim to asylum has not been granted. You got to get out. Well, guess what? They didn't. They stayed. So again, this is a really important, clear message for the Trump administration, for his border czar, Tom Homan, to be sending. If you come to the U.S. illegally, you will not be allowed to stay.
Yeah. Where do you think this goes? Because there's some pushback, and are we going to see a mayor get arrested? Are we going to see a governor potentially be detained, be arrested for violating and defying federal law? I mean, look, I'm old enough to know that I read books about Dwight Eisenhower sending the National Guard to Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957 because the governor there said, we will not integrate schools. And Dwight Eisenhower, Republican, in 1957 said, yeah, you're going to integrate schools. And he brought the National Guard, put it right on the front steps of the high school in Little Rock and escorted black students in. If you defy federal law, there is a penalty for that. Strong penalty, isn't there?
There is indeed. And while I don't necessarily foresee any government officials being arrested over this, I see the Trump administration using every legal means that they have in order to pressure these cities into following the law through lawsuits, through economic sanctions in a way that, like we've seen with other countries, and potentially, like you mentioned, use of our military in some capacity to say, hey, this isn't optional. It's not optional to follow the law. This is actually a priority that extends far beyond your agenda as a local mayor or a governor. This is about protecting the safety and security of the American people. And it really is, in so many ways, confusing, I think, to many Americans, of why would my leaders, the leaders of my state, the leaders of my city, want to tell illegal aliens, specifically criminal illegal aliens, hey, if you want safety, if you want to stay in the United States and not fear deportation, come to our city, come to our state. I mean, I think about California and Governor Gavin Newsom. I mean, they've just rolled out the red carpet. They've essentially put out a giant welcome sign to criminal illegal aliens saying, hey, if you're worried about deportation, come here. They've put together a $25 million slush fund in order to provide legal services for criminal illegal aliens to not be deported.
If you're a taxpayer there, if you work there, if you have to step over, the homeless people to get to your job because the sidewalks covered with homeless people and open-air drug dens and fecal matter and everything else. Oh, and by the way, in addition to all that, we're a sanctuary city for people that don't speak the language, don't appreciate the culture, don't love the country, don't want to be here, think they're entitled to all of these things, and they want you to pay for it. I mean, man, I would be a little bit demoralized.
I mean, you wonder, Gavin Newsom is scratching his head wondering why people are moving out of his state. It's obvious. I mean, these policies are driving people away. They're increasing crime. The situation has deteriorated to a level that is just so horrific. And who bears the cost of that? It's not those politicians that have their security units and have fences around their own property. It's the American people. It's individuals like Rachel Morin from Maryland and Laken Riley from Georgia, individuals who have literally paid with their lives for an open border crisis that we've had for 4 years, that now, as quickly as possible, the Trump administration is trying to rectify. And I think they're doing it with great speed and great haste. And hopefully we won't see any other tragedies in the meantime.
Well, I hope not either. But unfortunately, we had the patrol agent killed in Vermont here after what was it? One day after Donald Trump was inaugurated. I mean, the problem is already here. The criminal element is already here, Virginia, and so we have the problem. A lot of cleanup to do, and whether the left likes it or not, look, America voted to clean up the problem, and we intend to clean up the problem. Virginia Allen, senior news producer at the Daily Signal. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you.
Good to have you. All right, so when we come back, we're going to check in on Brock with sports, monitoring a lot of breaking headlines about the crash over the Potomac, but we're going to verify those things. A lot of things being posted on social media, but it's social media. Got to figure out what to trust, what not to trust. I can tell you I've watched a video here of the helicopter. It's a video. The helicopter's going on a straight line for 30 seconds. A lot of times it avert and does not. And it begs the question, was this an intentional act? Was this an intentional act? I'll be back.